It's Friday, May 1st. This is the Christian Commute. I am your host, Seth Dunn, and you are riding with me. Guess, it ain't home. It's to the baseball park. I have one kid whose season isn't done yet. They have 3 more regular season games before the playoffs. My my middle son's team, their regular season ended last night. And if the past is an accurate predictor of the future, they have 2 more games in a double elimination tournament, and then they're done. What's going on? Oh, I got my navigation lady on. I'm going to turn her down. Turn down, navigation lady. I have the navigation lady on the second phone. I bought an aftermarket radio. I think they're called head unit. I bought an aftermarket head unit for my Kia Soul a while back because my radio died, and it has a screen on it. And if I hook my phone up to the screen and press a bunch of buttons, it's kind of a headache. It'll display the map for me, but you know what I do now? I just set the phone on top of the head unit and just turn it sideways, and it displays the map just fine. So that's what I'm doing on the second phone. And as I've said before, I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to get to the ballpark unless it's from my house. Plus, you got all kinds of Friday traffic things involved. And I've got it timed perfectly, it looks like, to get there right when the first pitch happens. There's a lot of warming up in baseball. It's a slow game. A lot of changing pitchers and warming up every inning. I feel like they should rush through it more. Anyway, that's where I'm going. That's what I'm doing. And I have a full show for you. I'm gonna try. It says I got 45 minutes to get there. It says it's how long it's going to take. And I am going to try to finally do a show topic today, and to do blue Christians. I think I'll get to it because I don't have very many verses for the scripture review. And I do have a question, but I don't think it'll take that long. And I want to thank Lauren and Susan and Marilyn for sending me questions, because that gave me full shows. Isn't the Christian Commute so much better when we get a full show? So I'm out of questions. This is the last one. It's a question on, I guess that you could call it pseudo-scientific miracle cures. I don't know. But I've got that question. And as always, we have the Bible chapter review, which is in Luke chapter 12, verses 39 through 40. So send me some more questions because I'm out. All right, Luke chapter 9, verses 39 through 40. But be sure of this, that if the head of the house had known the hour the thief was coming, he would not have allowed his house to be broken into. You too, be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you don't expect. Now, in the last Bible chapter review, we talked about the master of a house being gone to attend a wedding feast. And when he got home, his servants were up waiting for him to attend him. They were acting faithfully and dutifully. They were paying attention. So along that same line of thought, Jesus says, he tells them, think about this. If you knew somebody was going to break into your house, you'd be ready. So the head of the house, and really, I'm not sure if he's talking about, say, the head slave or the head servant, or the master of the house himself, but it works either way. If you knew a thief was coming to your house, you wouldn't let your house get broken into. Right? You'd be there. You'd take extra security measures. Did any of you not lock your door? I don't lock mine. Because it's not like somebody who wants to break into my house. And I have a big house. I have 5 exterior doors. I have a big house, and if somebody wants to break in, it's not like they're going to come, test if the door is open, and then say, oh, it's locked, I'm not going to break in. I mean, it's not Fort Knox. They'll kick it down. And I live in a nice neighborhood. Occasionally there'll be people who come through, ne'er-do-wells, who target our neighborhood, and they'll drive through and they'll look for unlocked car doors and try to steal stuff out of people's unlocked car doors. But I hardly ever hear of a B&E or even somebody sneaking in to the house in the old swim and tennis community. So I don't lock my door. And now cameras are everywhere. It used to be only super rich people had security cameras. When I was born, if you had a cell phone and security cameras at your house, you were like a gazillionaire. You were like Tony Montana, probably. Okay, but now everybody's got cell phones, and you can get Amazon Blink cameras for $50 off Amazon, and the service costs $4 a month. So everybody's got security cameras. I have Amazon Blink cameras, but you know what? My neighborhood is so safe that when the batteries die on my cameras, I don't always change them real fast. The ones that are plugged in always work. And I have plugged in, even though my doors aren't locked, I have plugged in security cameras pointed at the doors of the various places to go into my house, so the batteries won't die. I don't have a Ring doorbell. I have whatever the Amazon brand is. It's a Blink brand doorbell. But if you knew, or if I knew somebody was going to break into my house, if I knew they were going to do it, I would lock all the doors, and I would make sure all the cameras on my Amazon Blink were operating. And then, instead of letting my dog sleep in the garage, I would bring my dog inside the house, and I'd say, all right, Dottie, I want you to sit right here by the front door. By the way, that's another security feature of my house. My dog is half German Shepherd, and I keep her in a lot in the back, but sometimes she squeezes through the fence, and if she does, she sits on the front porch right in front of the front door. My dog, when Jesus says, I am the door, when he's talking about being a shepherd, and he's referencing, a shepherd lays down in front of the sheep pen, where the gate is on the sheep pen, he lays down himself, so no sheep can get out and nobody can get in without going through him. That's like a German Shepherd does. My dog right at the door. If you're coming in my house to get to me and my people, you better get through her. There she is. So I would bring my dog in, and I'd be like, all right, I got the dog, I got the door locked, and I'm going to sit here like Joe Don Baker in Cape Fear at the table with a revolver, and I'm ready. Okay? Because that's what everybody does. Oh, my house got broken. I forgot to lock my door, or I wish I'd have had my security camera turned on. Yeah, that's what you think after. If you're really secure, you're ready all the time. Your door is always locked. Your security camera is always on. Your guard dog is always at the ready. That's part of being secure, is being ready for the thief to come. What happens if you're not ready when the thief comes? Well, you're going to lose your stuff. They're going to break into the house and take it. And Jesus is comparing himself, or his second coming, to a thief. He says, he's talking about the Son of Man coming at an hour you don't expect. Well, he's there right now. What does he mean? Well, he's talking about his second coming, obviously. Talking to Peter. And the point is, it's like that. I'm coming back at an hour you don't expect. The thief doesn't call your house and say, hey, I'd like to make an appointment with you to rob your house. He comes when you don't figure a thief is going to come. And it's the same thing with the return of Christ. We don't know when he's going to come. We just need to be ready. Not like we expect it. Go back to the thing about the master of the house who was away at the wedding feast. If he told the guys, like, I'll be home at 10 o'clock, well, they're going to goof around till 9:30, and then they'll get up and get ready. But they didn't know. So they were constantly ready. And in the same way, we need to be constantly ready, because the coming of the Lord is going to be like a thief in the night. With that, we'll end the Bible chapter review. Let's move on to a question in the inbox. But hold on, let me get around some Friday traffic. I got this guy up here, and blue F-150 trimmer, 100 times faster than either of my F-150s. Going slow, but I don't think it's his fault. Look at this. It is a white car in the left lane. And there's different kinds of people in this world. There's me and this other guy in front of me. We're the kind of people that we don't accept people just driving slow in front of us in perpetuity. We're not going to wait for them to get over, because they're not. We're going to go all the way over the right lane. Now this Ford F-150 trimmer guy's lost his patience too. And these inconsiderate jerk people are up here on I-75 on a Friday, going slow. Maybe they're talking on their phone, maybe they're jamming out, but whatever they're doing, they're totally not paying attention to the line of traffic developing behind them. They don't know that they're ruining the Christian commute. They don't care. They don't love their neighbor. Oh my gosh. Now I'm stuck. Now F-150 trimmer has got into the right lane and just stopped. Now he's going even slower than before. It's like he's intentionally blocking the road. What's wrong with you? Don't you know how fast your car is? F-150 trimmer. This is a lot of trouble. All the way to Resaca now. The Resaca exit. And it's just this one guy he's like 10 cars up. What a jerk. And it's stuff like this, guys. Nobody's ever going to arrest this person for how he's treating other people. He's never going to get sued for it. It seems like a small thing, but there's justice for everyone in heaven. It's coming. Is the Lord going to call this person in front of his throne and say, what's wrong with you on May 1st, 2026? You back traffic up for a mile going 65 miles an hour in the fast lane? I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say probably not. But isn't it good to know that nobody gets away with anything? I think some people think of heaven and like, well, there's something to come. It doesn't just stop right here when we die. And I think, I'm not talking about Christians, because we just know, because it's in the Bible. But, everybody, there's a lot of people who believe in heaven and hell, just generally, and this can't be the end. There must be a reward waiting for good people. You know what I think about? Nobody's getting away with anything. There's justice coming. I think that's, by the way, just my opinion, that's a good way to think about God. Think about him being merciful, loving, and just. Nobody's going to get away with anything, all the little wrongs that have ever happened. We're going to fix those. All right, now let's go to the inbox, because I'm almost around this business. I got a guy in a Ford Bronco. And this Ford Bronco looks like it could drive over a mountain in Africa, and you got a guy going back from Atlanta to Chattanooga. Do you really need that Ford Bronco, buddy? You need to drive through a river. You need to drive through a river on I-75 with your $50,000 Bronco. I might get my twins a Bronco just because it's cool. I don't care. All right. This question comes from Susan in Missouri. If you have a question about Christian theology or apologetics, you can write to sethdunn88@gmail.com. That is sethdunn88@gmail.com, or dial 470-315-0875. You can leave me a message and Gmail will transcribe it and read it to me, and I can listen to it. I might even answer. If I know your number, I might answer. Sometimes I answer. If Jeff from Florida comes, I usually answer. Not that it's a big deal to get to talk to me like I'm Larry King or somebody. All my references are old. Larry King. He's dead. He hasn't been on the air for years. I had a girl late to soccer practice the other day. I pointed at my wrist. She's looking at me funny. I said, people used to wear these things called watches. This is what you did when somebody was late. Susan from Missouri writes, what does the Bible say about pseudoscientific or sci-fi type medical devices or medical solutions? And she gives an example like a med bed that you might see in Star Trek that heals you with crystals and sound frequencies. So if you're ever watching a sci-fi, they have these in Alien. They have them in, what's that movie? Elysium. They have them in Elysium with Matt Damon tries to get to where the rich people are in space. They have back-to-tanks in Star Wars. So a lot of times when you're watching sci-fi, the medical bays, they'll have these computer or robot type beds that cure you anything, because it's just advanced future science. And Susan has a friend who is convinced that these things exist now. And they use crystals and sound frequencies to heal people. And the government and the medical industry is suppressing them to keep us dependent on the medical industry. He's like, what's the Bible say about this? I'm going to say nothing. It doesn't say anything about this, just like it doesn't say anything about buying call or put options in stock. It's not something they did. I mean, they had doctors back then, but I mean, they didn't have advanced medicine like we have now. But let me delineate between something. Like when you're watching a movie, if you're watching one of the 8 zillion Alien movies, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, and then the prequel, Prometheus, and then Alien Covenant, and then Alien Romulus. I mean, there are all these prequels and sequels and whatnot. Those movies are set in the far future, and they have medical devices that, you know, they're like AI computer doctors, and they'll do various medical procedures. I mentioned the movie Elysium. In that movie, I've talked about how Matt Damon is supposed to be a Christ figure in that movie before, but everybody on Earth is poor and dying of like toxic waste. But there's people who live in a space colony near the moon or something like that, and they have medical devices that just heal you in an instant. You get in a bed and it heals you instantly. And but it's not magic, it's not new age, it's advanced technology. Same thing for Star Wars. Whenever somebody gets hurt in Star Wars, they get in a back-to-tank and that heals them. So that's all sci-fi, but the idea is it's advanced medical technology. And probably some of the stuff we have now would look like that to people from the past. I mean, think of a dialysis machine that keeps people alive when their organs are failing. Is that for kidneys? And like, if you told somebody, hey, listen, I know when people's kidneys fail, they die, but we have something now, when their kidneys fail, we put them on this machine, and then when they get, we can find a kidney that matches. When somebody dies in a car wreck, we replace their kidney, and then they're just fine, and they'll live another 10 years. That would be mind-blowing to people. In fact, there's a kidney dialysis machine in Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, when the Enterprise goes back in time to save the whales. Dr. McCoy is walking through a hospital and he sees somebody on a dialysis machine, and he goes, oh my gosh. And then he pulls out a pill and gives it to him and cures him with this one little pill, right? But none of that is pseudoscience, conspiracy theory type stuff. It's fiction. And the idea is, we advance through technology. That's feasible to do that. And maybe one day we'll have those things. But the idea that crystals and sound frequencies heal you, well, that's just a bunch of pseudoscience. It's typically involved with the New Age, and it's typically involved with Spiritism. And then we can start to get into the Bible and understand what the Bible teaches us. Like, we have our body, and we have our soul. That's what makes up humans. But spirits and quimbyism, that doesn't heal you. You know, the power of positive thinking in your soul doesn't heal your physical body. By the way, we're going through the Gospel of Luke, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Jesus was doing miracles when he was just speaking people to be healed, okay? There's no trick. People are like, oh yeah, Jesus was the first guy who figured this out, but we can all do it with crystal power and sound waves. Well, the Bible doesn't talk about crystal power and sound waves, but what we can do is we can say crystal power and sound waves are associated with people who believe in the New Age, and New Age spiritualism is unbiblical because it has a wrong idea of how humans are made up, what makes us tick, what our limitations are, what God can do and what we can't do. And New Age spiritism is really demonic because people are channeling demonic spirits. You understand that doing stuff with spirits, those spirits are demons. Okay. So you get all these people with crystal power, they're being duped. You call 1-900 fortune teller and we'll send you this crystal. And you know what comes to mind when I'm thinking about this? Think about going to a chiropractor, the chiropractic arts. Now, I mean, there's chiropractors who call themselves doctor, and you know your insurance probably covers chiropractic. There's a university up here in Marietta, Georgia, Life University. It's a legit school, but it's a chiropractic school. There are people who believe that if you go to the chiropractor regularly and he gives you an adjustment, and what that means is he lines your bones back to how they're supposed to be. Because listen, your body's like a car, right? If you go and get your tires changed, and they align them and they rotate them and align them, and then you get your oil changed, everything's fine, right? But then you drive for 5,000 miles, you hit a few speed bumps. Well, now your tires are out of alignment, they're wearing, your car doesn't go straight, your oil's dirty, you got to change. Your body works the same way. You get wear and tear on it. So if you go to a chiropractor regularly and your bones and joints are all out of alignment and he sticks them back, you're going to feel better. But it's not going to cure the flu and make you live longer. You know, there's a spiritualism, element, even in chiropractic. Like the guy who invented it said he got it from a ghost, like the ghost of a doctor. You can Google this. And there's people who take it really far and say like, oh yeah, if you're in alignment, your bones and everything's going to be better. You're not going to get sick as much. Listen, I don't care how many times you go to a chiropractor. If you get COVID, you're going to feel bad. You might die. I mean, so that's pseudoscientific nonsense. So your friend, Susan, he's just believing in pseudoscientific nonsense and an invalid conspiracy theory. And I mean, the Bible doesn't talk about all these conspiracy theories people have. Because the first question is like, oh, we have the technology now with med beds that could just heal people. Well, why aren't they in the hospital now? Oh, because if we did that, we wouldn't be as reliant on the medical system. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You guys know how the medical system works? So the medical industry, doctors and stuff, charge you more than what the care is worth. So your doctor bill should be $100 and they'll charge you $5 on paper because they know that maybe 1 in 5 people is going to pay and they get their $500 that way. And then you have insurance, medical insurance. It's just bulk buying power. Do you guys understand that's how that works? People think, well, I'm just insuring myself in case something bad happens. Yeah, that works if you get in a car wreck and you have to go to the trauma center and be helicoptered and then the bill's $500,000 and the insurance pays it and you only got to pay your deductible. But for all this other stuff that insurance covers, like your regular doctor visits, well, why do you need insurance for that? You know you're going to have to go to the doctor at least once a year to get a checkup. Why is that on insurance? It's about bulk buying. So United Healthcare makes a deal with all the various medical provider coverages and say, we'll give you $75 for an urgent care visit. You know, $75 from our person and then $75 from us. And it's $150. Well, we want to charge $300. You advertise whatever you want. You're getting $150, and we have all these customers. That's how vision insurance works. It's basically how Costco works. You buy in bulk and negotiate better prices. That's how insurance works. Okay? So the idea that the medical profession is out there withholding all this miracle life-saving care because they want to preserve an industry full of red tape and then eventually death and suffering is stupid. Because you know what they want? They want to be rich, right? How is it easier to get rich? To create a red tape bureaucracy full of call centers and negotiators going back and forth between various insurance companies and the government and medical providers? Is it easier to get rich that way, or just invent a product that's awesome? Okay. Elon Musk is super rich. Why? Because he made a company that has electric cars that work well. Jeff Bezos is rich. Why? Because he can send anything to your house that you want in a day with Amazon. If there was somebody with like sci-fi, Star Wars, Star Trek, medbed technology, they'd come out with it tomorrow because they'd be gazillionaires because everybody would buy one. You'd have it at your house. People would have them at their houses. You go, well, what would doctors do? They'd go be anything else they want. You know what I mean? It's the idea that there's some conspiracy withholding this technology. It's just crazy. Because if you think about how our economy works, the people who are most successful are the people who innovate and provide things that are in short supply. Also, you got to think about how things are invented. You think of electricity. You think of like Tesla and Edison and alternating current and direct current, or Sony and Sony Betamax versus VHS, or DVD versus Blu-ray versus Blu-ray HD, and all these things that people invent that do the same thing, and they race to get their product to the market so it gets dominance. So that's common sense. The Bible doesn't say anything about that, not to my knowledge. So yeah, I'm sorry, Susan, there's really not a biblical answer for people who believe ridiculous things that are patently false. But you know, they're free to believe them, I guess. I guess where it moves into Christian versus non-Christian is when they start talking about New Age things and ideas that are patently unchristian, like doing all this spirit stuff is going to fix your body. Well, that's not true. We know that death and disease and sickness are a result of the fall, and only the second coming of Jesus and the resurrection fixes all these things permanently. Like we can't do it on our own with, you know, these miracle technologies. Now I've got to make a hard choice. I'm at this sketchy exit that has the truck stop Pizza Hut. Oof. And they have breadsticks, and they sure would be good, but it might make me late. Because the truck stop Pizza Hut might say, oh yeah, brother, we get you some of those. It'll be about 15 minutes. You ever seen anybody at the truck stop Pizza Hut / Taco Bell / Burger King / Popeyes in a hurry? No. So, I think I'll just get some cheese sticks at the Little League Park. All right, thanks for writing in, Susan. I'm sorry I don't really have a better answer for you. But just like it says in John, it says, like, well, listen, we didn't write down everything. There's not enough books to contain all Jesus did. There's so many falsities and problems and ridiculous things in the world. The Bible doesn't cover all of them. Oh, one more thing. I will say this. You mentioned that your particular friend, his son is addicted to heroin, and he thinks one of these things would fix him. And you opine, Susan, that that's more like a character flaw than it is a medical fix. And here you have to have the old Forrest Gump answer. I think it's both. By the way, I'm stuck at a roundabout. I hate roundabouts. Are any of y'all going to use a signal? If I wanted to go suffer in France, I would go suffer in France. I hate roundabouts. Wish the Bible said not to make those. It is a character flaw to start taking drugs, but then you can come to your senses and realize, I should not be taking these drugs. And some people might think, it's not a sin, but it's still bad for me, so I shouldn't take them. And then they can't because they're addicted. So it is a character flaw when you start taking drugs, but people who keep taking them, yes, it is a sin to continue taking them. And yes, you can overcome it through the power of the Holy Spirit. Just like if a bunch of naked ladies find you and throw themselves at you, you don't have to have sex with them, even though that's a huge temptation, more so than just walking around in your everyday life, right? You can still say no. But I think the thing that proves this out, Susan, is that you take a drug like heroin, it's way more addictive than other addictive drugs. There's lots of addictive drugs. But heroin is super hard to beat because the withdrawals are so bad. So yes, if they did have these miracle cure things, somebody who's addicted to heroin could go and use one, and it would zap all the heroin residue out of their body, and they wouldn't be addicted anymore. And that you could do that medically. And we do it now medically, methadone. So people who are addicted to heroin now, which is an opiate, I guess if it's any opiate, you go to a methadone clinic, and to fix your withdrawals from heroin, they give you methadone. And then that's how they wean you off of heroin. So conceivably, Susan, somebody could invent a drug or another medical device that's like super methadone and instantly healed your physical addiction to a drug. You'd still have your character flaw of the kind of person who takes drugs, and you'd still have to overcome that. So yes, your friend's son has character flaws, but he also, he's gotten to the point where he needs medical intervention. Because if you abuse drugs and alcohol long enough, it will mess up your body, and it will take medical intervention to help fix it. So now you need medical intervention as well as spiritual renewal and repentance and whatnot. 12 minutes. All right, I'm going to get to the show topic. Blue Democrats. We talked the other day about how with this, I'll just call him a woke liberal pope, this pope they got over there, who seems progressive and leftist, and the last pope seemed progressive and leftist, how you can approach your conservative Catholic friends, politically conservative Catholic friends, and say, listen, this doesn't line up with what you believe and how you live your life, and this guy's supposed to be the vicar of Christ. How do you reconcile that? You really can't separate politics and religion, can you? You don't keep it separate. We got freedom of religion here. Well, the First Amendment prevents the government from establishing a church. It doesn't prevent people from voting their convictions. It's quite the opposite. You can vote your convictions. And that's why you see Christians catered to by pro-life politicians. Well, why are we against abortion? Well, because it's murder of somebody made in God's image. That's politics. That's political. Yeah, it's political, but it's also because of my religion. Like, I don't like the income tax. Like, I think it's bad. Listen, let me just tell you the taxes I don't like. I don't like Social Security and Medicare. I think they're stupid, and I don't like them. I understand why we have them. I understand there might be societal problems if we got rid of them. But I don't like payroll tax, and I don't like income tax. I think they're bad things to tax. That's not my religious opinion. That's my economic opinion. If my religion covers it in any way, I would say God put us here to work. He gave us our labor, and He gave us our right to labor and our right to property, and we are supposed to be laboring to make a living, and it seems tyrannical to tax the very thing God put us here to do. Because if you don't work, You don't get taxed on your income. But if you're not working, you're not doing what God put you here to do. But there's a lot of government policies, and I just gave you tax policy because it's something, we're all familiar with. It's like, I don't have a religious opinion on this. I just think this is bad. Or I think this is a good idea or a bad idea based on observation. The Bible doesn't cover this. But there are things that the Bible does cover, like stealing and murder. And I'm not making a pragmatic decision about this. This is just what the Bible says. And I don't care how unpopular it is with somebody else. I'm not going to compromise on this issue, because you can't compromise on moral things. You can't compromise on the gospel. Sin puts people in hell, and no, we're not compromising on this. And by the way, God puts people in hell because they're sinners, to be cured. Sin is an abstract thing, right? Sin is not a person. It's not personal. Somebody has to cast you into hell. You guys understand that it's God who casts people into hell? It's Him who's doing it. It's not you yourself. He might have an angel physically do it for him, like, toss you. Like a mob boss has a henchman to throw you off the window, throw off the building, or give you in concrete shoes. But it's God doing it. It's not you. But yeah, it has a lot to do with your sin. So that's what my argument is. Like, you can reach these Catholics to get them out of Catholicism by juxtaposing the Pope and his leftism against what they believe. That's putting someone in conflict. And by the way, that's how you win at football and basketball and soccer, is you put a defender in conflict, right? That's why the spread offense works. I'm going to put this linebacker in conflict. When somebody has a false belief, you find a true belief and you put them in conflict and say you can't hold these both. So that was the advice on how to deal with politically conservative people. Now I don't need to know. Do I need to turn left or go straight? I'm stuck in traffic. Oh well. But what about people who say that they're Christians but vote Democrat? And they say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, 100 years ago, nothing. I'll tell you a story right now. I am going, since I'm in Cartersville, Georgia, I'm going to the baseball field. The name of the baseball field to which I am going is Joe Frank Harris Baseball Field. And I'm about to cross Joe Frank Harris Highway to get there. That's what we call Highway 41 in Cartersville. In fact, Joe Frank Harris just popped up right now on my Google map. Joe Frank Harris, okay? Joe Frank Harris is still alive. I've met him because his son lives next door to me. And from time to time, I'll talk to his son. And Joe Frank Harris is a Christian. And everybody that I know in his family that I've met is an evangelical Christian. And these are not the type, they're not like waspy people who just say they are. Like, these are people who, like, they're walking down the street and I was praying for you. Let me tell you about Jesus. Like, these are people who really believe. Okay, that's how they were raised. So Joe Frank Harris was a Democrat, and he was the governor of Georgia, and he was a Democrat, and he's a Christian, and his kids are Christians. Well, wait a second, Seth, I didn't think you had evangelical Christian Democrats. Well, you did back then, before the platform of the Democratic Party became radically leftist, gay marriage, abortion on demand. All right? The Democrats used to just be about big government, like FDR subsidies. Like, let's make the TVA, and let's have a bunch of aid programs for poor people. They were just communitarian, okay? That's what they used to be like. I don't agree with that. I don't think it's good, but it gets back to my point above, like, I don't know that I really have a theological argument. I just think it's not the best way to allocate our resources. I just don't think it's good economics. And if you were to talk to Joe Frank Harris, it could be explained to you that the Democratic Party moved left into things like abortion that he just couldn't get with. or Democrats like him couldn't get with. And now when you think of Georgia, well, if you look at our congressional map, it's like super red. Our governor's Republican. I don't know how we ended up with Democratic senators. I think that was fishy. And one of them is like an uber liberal, progressive so-called preacher, Raphael Warnock, Synagogue of Satan guy. But Georgia's a farm state, and it used to be like big blue farm politics. Well, why are these people not Democrats anymore? Well, maybe they figured out that it was bad economic ideas, like we shouldn't do this, but they probably also were like, we're church-going, salt-of-the-earth people, evangelical Christians, like, we don't have anything in common with San Francisco abortion clinic homos, you know? I mean, if I was running for governor, I'd be like, yeah, I'm Seth Dunn for governor. I'm talking a fake accent. This is Seth Dunn for governor. I'm one of you. And you put me in the governor's mansion, and we'll keep these abortion clinic San Francisco homos out. We'll stop them at the state line. Hey, we might not even let them get through Alabama and Mississippi. I mean, like, no. Okay? No. I mean, I really believe that way. I just don't talk like that. But you still have people who claim to be evangelical Christians, but they vote Democrat. Notice I said evangelical. I'm not talking about mainliners. Because mainline Christians stopped believing the Bible a long time ago. Okay, we know this. We've talked about this. They abandon the inerrancy of Scripture, and they just take anything, and their church is all about social justice. Basically, a mainline church becomes like Democratic Party headquarters. Because all they got is social activism and social justice. They don't believe the Bible. They don't believe in heaven and hell. A lot of them don't believe in the literal resurrection. I mean, they got social justice outside the local Anglican church here in town with a homosexual, quote-unquote, gay married pastor. I mean, it's an abomination. An abomination. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people who go to XYZ Baptist Church, not Cooperative Baptist. I'm talking about Independent Baptist, Southern Baptist, Missionary Baptist. I'm talking about people who go to so-and-so Pentecostal church, the Holy Rollers, okay? But they still vote Democrat because I need my welfare. My granddaddy voted Democrat and so will I. You know, that's how they think. A lot of these people, by the way, will be black. And that's a cognitive dissonance thing you can do with them. Like you're not going to find a bunch of them. Like you're going to find a bunch of conservative Roman Catholics. You could start naming them. Like you know who these people are. Like, I know this guy, I know that guy, and you name them. But you talk about people in your church, even if you go to one of these big 500, 600 member churches, like here in Cartersville, like a Tabernacle or a First Baptist or a Liberty Square, which is our big not Assemblies of God, Church of God church. You might find 2 or 3 people, you know, a very small percentage who are Democratic. If you go to an evangelical black church, it's going to be probably most of them. And the challenge that you need to have for those people is, how does your, and you can use Joe Frank Harris as an example, how does your stance, your co-belligerence, your support of the Democratic Party, how does that line up with your Christian witness? Vis-a-vis abortion, homosexuality, now transgendering, basically how they do kids. Okay, so let's just go back to this. This is a very simple thing. You can put it back to that. The kingdom of heaven belongs to such as some of these. That's what Jesus said. Talking about little kids, right? The people who think like little kids. You gotta be like a child, he says. And he says, if anybody leads one of these little ones astray, it's better that they chuck him in the ocean with a millstone around his neck, or the sea. I don't think he meant the ocean. Just a big old body of water. He needs to sleep with the fishes. Okay? When you lead a child astray. True religion is to do what? Do good to widows and orphans in their distress, right? Because they need Children are needy. They need protection. You are worse than an unbeliever, Christian, if what? If you don't take care of your family. You are supposed to train up a child in the way that he should go, so that when he is old, it should not depart from him. You are supposed to put the law of God on your doorposts and on your fence posts and wear it as a frontal on your forehead to raise your children up in it. All right, talk about that in Deuteronomy. A Christian ethic is an ethic of protecting and nurturing children. And if you think of the radical progressivism of Democrats, what do they want to do? Well, they want to abort children. If you want to abort a child, that's great. You can abort them. That's your choice. Pro-choice. You can abort them if you don't want them. If there's something wrong with them, you abort that child. So that's just killing the child. Then if the child's alive, hey, you want to be adopted by a lesbian couple or a homosexual couple, you want two daddies? God designed us to have a mom and a dad. And it's a tragedy when one of your parents dies. And if you're lucky, your parent remarries and you got a stepdad or a stepmom who'll treat you like one of your own. Okay? But two dads is not a thing. That's bad for children. Then you got transgender thing when you have people say, oh, my daughter's going to identify as a man or vice versa. And we're going to dress them up in the wrong clothes or the opposite clothes. Or we're even going to medically intervene. We're going to give them the opposite kind of hormones. We're going to Frankenstein our kid. I want you to think of how evil is done to children. Children are defenseless. Evil is done to children through the Democratic progressive platform. Oh, the Republicans cut my welfare. Well, sorry. Donald Trump's mean. Sorry. Okay? These people are out to destroy kids. So if you talk to one of these blue Christians, blue because it's like blue state, these blue Christians, they might say, well, how do you explain Donald Trump? And whoa. That's the same thing the Pentecostals do with you in the bookstore. I've told you the story about going to the Christian bookstore in town. And I said, hey, you got Benny Hinn books here and Joyce Meyer. You shouldn't have that. Well, the spirit of the Pharisees is still alive. Some people come in here, they tell me not to have John MacArthur books. Like, hey, bro, I didn't come in here and say anything about John MacArthur. If you don't want a John MacArthur book, don't have it. But I know that these people are heretics and they're wolves. Why are you selling this crap? Don't try to get me into an... I'm not trying to defend John MacArthur. I'm trying to say, get this crap out of here. What's wrong with you? That guy's a Pentecostal, of course. James Black is his name. And people do this with Trump. Well, you voted for Trump and Trump. Trump's not even a Christian. I'm not saying he is. I'm not here to defend Donald Trump to you. I'm here to ask you why you support Democrats when their platform is evil. I'm talking about, yes, individual politicians on both sides are evil. We'll always have the wheat among the tares, even in the church. But their platform is wicked. How can you be yoked with these people? Why are you putting them in power? They're against Christ. Like they're anti-Christ. So you can talk all you want about funding the community center and taxing rich people more than poor people all you want. If you think that's cool, that's fine. But when it gets down to it, the moral issues that are inseparable from politics, it's just impossible to hold to democratic moral politics and Christian morality. Biblical evangelical Christian morality. You just can't. You can't hold them in tension. They contradict, like the opposite sides of a magnet. So if somebody is a Christian and a Democrat, just don't take their word for it. Listen, just as if you showed up to church wearing a t-shirt from the local strip joint. If you showed up to church with a t-shirt saying boom boom strip joint. Like, I don't believe you're a Christian if you go to the strip joint every weekend. I don't believe you're a Christian if you're drunk in the bar every weekend. And I don't believe if you're a Christian if you're a Democrat every weekend. Because the morality, the tension doesn't hold. It's got to separate. So what am I telling you? Don't tolerate it. Don't excuse it because of race or nationality or anything else. Just don't tolerate it. Thanks for listening to the Christian Commute. Lord willing, I'll be back with you again, I guess, Tuesday. As always, God bless, and as always, remember, Christianity is not about getting saved. It's about being saved.